have led to the layoff of 170 cops. Now we're talking about bringing 25 back. We've lost hundreds more via attrition, and our streets are a war zone as a consequence. Carjackings has gone up every year since the city council laid off cops. The South Ward in particular is an absolute disaster right now. There have been 35 murders in the South Ward just this year. In the last 4 years since new leadership was elected in the South Ward, murders are up almost 40%. Your fruit speaks louder than your words. Our streets are more dangerous. Our young people are being shot and killed on the way to school. Our young people are being shot and killed on the way home from school. And that's attributable to decisions that the leadership has made. You don't lay off 170 cops and then don't expect these consequences. How we resolve it now is you have to have leadership with experience. I'm the only one running for mayor with any experience in law enforcement. I have a proven track record. As an assistant attorney general for the state of New Jersey, I led a crime plan for the whole state. We reduced violent crime throughout the state 3 years in a row. We doubled the graduation rate for kids in the juvenile prisons. We reduced recidivism by 26% throughout the state of New Jersey. I have a record. I've done this. A lot of folks talk about it, they march about it, they rally about it, they speak about it, but by the time they finish speaking, somebody else has been shot. And that's what we're doing with this single part. We need proven leadership. You elect me to be a mayor of the city with some much better results.
So, it's one thing to be a thermometer, and it's another thing to be a thermostat. So, a thermometer can tell you how hot it is, but only a thermostat can reduce the temperature. Anybody in here could point to the violence that's going on in the city. As a matter of fact, he's right. Violence in the South Ward and the West Ward has increased. And they told us that 90% of the violent crime in the city occurs in the South and the West Ward, where the most poverty and unemployment exists. Not because we have less cops, but because we have the most poverty and the most unemployment. He knows that, that's why he's running for mayor and not school board again. And I know that, that's why I'm running for mayor and not the councilman again. But the reality is this, the schools do have a relationship with Newark police. Right now, Newark police are inside the schools. That's the relationship that they have. They don't belong inside the schools. We need Newark police on the corridors of the schools in the morning when kids come to school and at the end when kids go home from school. Our kids are being robbed every day, 6 and 7 and 8 at a time. People are stealing their cell phones, they're being beaten and jumped. And yes, we have kids who catch the bus from the North Ward to Central High School, from the West Ward to Central High School, from the East Ward to Central High School. And they're getting robbed. And so we need to take the police outside the school, from inside the schools, and put them outside the schools and patrol what's going on. But more importantly, if you look at our crime plan, police is not the answer to reducing this kind of violent culture that we have, right? So if I was Cory Booker and I had $100 million, I would invest in after-school programming, invest in arts programming, invest in programs that would engage our kids longer and keep them in school and not out of school on the streets. That's what I would do if I had that money. And when I become the mayor, that's what's going to happen.
Parent yet. So this is a question from a parent in the audience. All the parents, raise your hand. All right. Yes, all right. Give the parents a hand. Yes. Laborers in the vineyard. So this is what one parent asked, guys. What would you do for special needs students? And how would you start programs that help spread awareness about autism? That's a big problem, right? Yes, Mildred, yes, okay. So let's start with Mr. Baraka.
So Central High School is probably the only other high school besides JFK, but we're the only comprehensive high school that deals with autism in the entire city. We have about 35, 40 kids right now that are autistic students that do an incredible job in our school with our students. People were fearful to send autistic kids first to Central High School thinking that our kids are animals and we're going to do something to them. But the relationship between our kids and the autistic kids in this school is incredible. And I would dare anybody to come over there and check it out and see what's going on in that program. What we need to do is to begin to develop more citywide programs designed to cater to autistic kids and special needs kids that are on the lower level of the spectrum and not the high level of the spectrum. We have to develop information sessions, parent engagement opportunities, things for the autistic kids at our school. Internship at City Hall. They intern at City Hall. So not only City Hall, we've been having trouble getting them in the county government, in the county courthouse, in the private sector. We need to create programs that engage a growing autistic population, by the way, in this city. And we're beginning to run out of room for the autistic kids at Central High School. Every year we get another group, and another group. And I think that that's a disability that is not being discussed in the city. So the mayor's office should be an advocate for special needs kids. Should be an advocate to make sure that we are following all ADA requirements, that all regulation in the city caters to all special needs kids, that all programming, all conferences, all meetings cater to the kids that are the least or the most vulnerable in our society.
Darren, would you respond, and then we'll go to Mr. Ramos.
The whole conversation tonight focused on all the challenges that we face, as though Newark Public Schools was an island on itself in terms of the resources. The thing that differentiates this city from the entire state is that we have 5 universities of higher learning, and a lot of research that goes on at those universities, a lot of those resources. As the mayor, working with Newark Public Schools, a lot of the problems from autism to special needs and everything else can be addressed by the important work that is done at those institutions of higher learning, but it's not shared. In this city, it's like we have a lot of ships that pass in the night. NJIT, they get up and do their research. Rutgers, they do research. Essex County College, Seton Hall. But these universities don't work in concert with the city and with Newark Public Schools. And the additional resources and revenue that we can get based on research that we do and grants that we apply for, we can use to address not only autism, but a lot of the other special needs that we have in our school. As long as we continue to work in our separate silos, good work will be done, but the benefits of that work will never be visited on our Newark Public Schools. We have everything we have right here in our city to solve every problem that we have in Newark Public Schools, but we have to begin to communicate better with each other and to develop a strategic and comprehensive plan to deal with not only autism, but a lot of the other challenges that we have in special needs.
Parents with children with special needs often face, incredible obstacles in getting services for their children. And my 7+ years on the council, even prior to that as a member of the advisory board, there were literally hundreds of parents who came to our offices seeking assistance because oftentimes they had to wait. I remember a parent that had to wait at least 2 years to get an IEP for her son. And for parents who are limited English proficient and are not very active in dealing with the school system, that problem is even greater. And one of the most incredible experiences that I've had as an elected official is being at the promotional ceremony at JFK, honoring so many of our kids who are autistic. And autism was a problem years ago that you heard of. Now you know of kids in your community, in your ward, in your neighborhood that have autism. We have adults in our community, in our city, that are dealing with autism. And one of the greatest needs that we have as a city is to partner and identify and fund and create an organization that's outside the school district that deals specifically with families who have children with autism. And they could be an advocate in conjunction, in my case, with my office on education, to ensure that those parents are receiving the kind of attention and results that they need so that they can continue to provide a safe haven and a quality education for their child.
We have many issues when it comes to the way in which we serve children with special needs. A threshold issue is we have overclassification. We overclassify too many, particularly Black and Latino young boys. We have a 17% classification rate in the city of Newark. Oftentimes what happens is poor instruction or inadequate curriculum. We use that as an excuse to classify and categorize the baby. And so the first thing we have to do is make sure we have effective training, effective professional development, so we can really identify those young children who really do have an educational disability and those other children who just may need different instruction or may need more learning time, for example. Secondly, then we have to implement IEPs. And again, I'm very proud to, again, have a record. See, a lot of folks spend a lot of time talking but don't have a record, and you just hear them, it's like, it ain't my fault. They blame other people. This narrow, I have a record. For 7 years, me and Education Law Center myself sued the Newark Public Schools because they were woefully delinquent in implementing IEPs. 2 years later, 3 years later. So the result of our lawsuit was additional resources coming from the state, additional compensatory education, the hiring of more IEP team members, including bilingual speech therapists, so that these IEPs are implemented more quickly. It still isn't where it needs to be, but it's better than where it was. So we have to implement these IEPs faster, because when you don't, that means you have kids who have educational disabilities who are sitting in classroom languishing, not receiving the services that they require. So both on the classification side, in terms of overclassification, which is a sickness and disease that doesn't receive enough attention, and making sure that we relentlessly implement these IEPs. The only way you're going to relentlessly implement these IEPs is if you have executives and managers who know what they're doing. This is not a rhetorical effort. This is a job of execution and implementation.
Thank you. So we had questions from students, and we had questions from parents, but we haven't had questions from a resident yet. And so, you know, there's some questions that are just filled with heat, and this is one of them. This is about closing schools. Whoa, right. So now I'm really gonna have to ask your patience for this, because this affects a lot of people. There are a lot of heated opinions about this, but the resident asked whether you could speak about the schools that are slated to be closed. I suppose some of them turned into charter schools. And what would you as mayor think about that, or do about it, or work with the superintendent regarding it, if at all? So let's start with Mr. Jeffries, and then we'll go.
I think the closing of schools is an extraordinary, and it's a very crude remedy, and should only be used in very limited circumstances. There may be some circumstances when you have to consolidate. So you've got one school that's 30 or 40% at capacity, and another school around the corner at 30, 40% capacity. You may need to consolidate those schools so you can have more resources to actually invest in educational opportunities for our young people. So I would support closure only in very extraordinary circumstances where we have schools that are near one another, and we have to consolidate to be more efficient so that we can make sure we have the resources to invest in our kids. But anytime we even think about considering closure, there has to be robust community engagement. And that is something we have not seen in recent times in our city of Newark. We seem to be in a space where in the spring, we'll read the paper and we'll hear about proposals potentially to close some schools. I'm very proud in my time on the school board that I already stopped some of these closures, including Miller Street, some other schools that the school district wanted to close. Some other schools where we need to consolidate for efficiency. Those are the kinds of things we have to explore in a time of declining resources. But this conversation has to be a robust one with the community. Parents have to be at the center of that. Community stakeholders have to be the center of that. There needs to be a robust planning process. Information needs to be shared with the community about the reasons the district is considering closing a school. This is not something that can happen in a 4 to 6 week window around budget time. There needs to be a year-long planning process with robust community engagement.
Thank you. Go to Mr. Sharif.
I think the last possible resort should be to close a school. But there are two reasons why a school is closed. The school is closed because the performance levels and the targets that they set are not achieved. And some schools are closed because they used to be a certain population of kids in the surrounding area who attended the school. One example of that is Louise A. Spencer School. Everybody knew that Stellar Right Projects and other developments were there. When they blew up Stellar Right Projects and have the Hope 6 project, just for numbers' sake, they had to consolidate in that school. But like Shavar said, even when they contemplate closing a school, they should engage and involve the residents in the community in the discussion. I think the reason why a lot of people are upset when these schools close and other decisions are made is that they are not informed well in advance so they can participate in the discussion. When they feel like they're in the dark and then something happens, that's when residents and parents get upset. So 2 reasons why schools should be considered closing as a last result: that the educational goals that are set for them, they don't achieve, and for efficiency sake, they have to combine schools and close schools, because a school that used to house a certain population, they still have those facility costs, they still have to pay for the lighting and the heat. When you have a fewer number of students in that school, it puts a burden on the school budget. But in both of those cases, residents in the community should be in on that conversation so they're not caught blindsided.
Thank you. Mr. Reynolds?
Closing a school should be a rare exception as opposed to common practice, and it needs to follow a very specific set of standards which deal primarily with enrollment numbers. If we have a school that's struggling or failing, we all have to have the collective courage to say, look, we have to do something better on behalf of our children. And the first step needs to be reorganization, reinvestment in that school as a necessary first step before we decide to close. If we do have population shifts, which do occur in cities like Newark, then a school closing becomes a possibility. But the whole issue of having parental and community engagement, as I mentioned earlier, is going to be one of my top priorities as mayor. Because I believe as a district, as we go ahead and plan and reorganize and shift the district in different directions, if we don't have buy-in and support from our parents, those efforts are in vain. And I give Barringer High School again as an example of a reorganization effort that's working because parents were involved, parents were communicated with, and stakeholders, including elected officials and business leaders, were part of that reorganization process.
So I'm elated to hear that all of us, the candidates, are backing up off of the school closing idea, because a lot of us advocated that vehemently at these, especially at the board members, saying that if you didn't close the school, it was tantamount to genocide and all these other kind of things. So I'm happy that people are backing away from that, around this whole idea of closing schools. And I'm also happy that people are saying we need to reinvest or invest in public schools that exist in people's neighborhoods. So I'm happy about that, because those are the things that have not happened. Right? The fact that we need to invest in school, it's not the school that's the problem, it's the practices that take place in the school, and those practices can change. Effective practices are changed by leadership, by staff development, and by involving themselves in the community and investing in that school. We're also not talking about just closing school. We closed boys and girls clubs to turn them into charter schools. The idea is that we begin to invest in the institutions that serve our children completely, not walk away from them, watch them fail, and say, let's close it down so we can open up something else. That sounds like a sinister plot. The idea is that we make sure that schools are alive and they're robust, and the real school choice is for a parent to be able to send their kid across the street from their house to a school that works. That's school choice. Don't tell me I have a choice when you allow this school to become dilapidated, and allow this school to put all the resources here and say, oh, now you have a choice. That's no choice. Everybody's going to choose that. The idea is to fix all of the schools where our children are. Whether they charter schools, public schools, wherever our children are, those schools need to be excellent schools where our children are every single day.
Good people, we are moving into the closing of the forum. And there was a question about arts that I wanted to just get out there, but instead of asking them the question, I want to first of all ask how many artists are in the room tonight? So we know we have Anita Baraka, we have this young man here. Would you guys commit to putting your ideas down about how we can use art to help promote literacy and to help engage our children around the formulation of imagination and creativity to help grow their ability to learn? Would you be willing to put that on paper and give it to them? So you're going to give your name to the people at the table in the back, because we're going to hold you to that promise. Hold your hand up again, all the artists. Let's give them a hand. And now I want to ask, and Amina Baraka is going to lead the pack. So I wanted to ask the candidates, you're going to accept that, right? And look at it and review it and see if it can be incorporated in your platform. Okay, now, you're going to get ready for your closing statements. I'm so happy. I want to ask you all to say very quickly, what is the first thing that you're going to do on the first day that you're in office? And then, as mayor, yes, as it relates to education. And then you can go into your 90-second closing remarks. So we're just going to do this alphabetically. So, Mr. Baraka.
So I just want to thank you again, Marsha Brown. I want to thank the candidates for having a very robust and civilized discussion up here. I'm okay, you know, I got a couple of bruises, but I'm good. So I didn't get a chance to answer the question correctly when I opened up, so I just want to really deal with that. And I think the first thing is, what should the mayor be doing as a mayor in a school system that's on transition around school reform about the things that are about to happen? And I would like to put that in the context if I had the Zuckerberg money or the $100 million, because that outlines a mayor's priorities. So my priority wouldn't be $43 million for a teacher contract, right? So my priority would be to engage the philanthropic community and the nonprofit community and look at the work that they've already done and the knowledge that they have and working every single day, and use my resources to fill the gaps where that work has not been complete or made holistic. That's number one. Number two, I would also encourage the arts community in the city of Newark through the Newark Arts Council to begin to engage the school system and begin to create extracurricular programs and extended day programs in partnership with Newark Public Schools to begin to have opportunities for kids to be in school later. I would also engage the universities so they can begin to create a school to college pipeline to fight the school to prison pipeline. So we need to use the money to foster these kind of STEAM programs that Rutgers, NJIT, Essex County can use to get our kids ready and develop for college. So we can expand those universities, but expand them with our kids that are in them now. The last thing I would do is develop parent engagement and spaces of opportunity for more parents to be involved and engaged in the discussion around school reform. Not 5 people from New York, 2 people from Trenton, 3 folks that we know that are best friends, but the actual parents from all walks of life. Public school parents, charter school parents, parochial school parents, to have a rich discussion and debate. And we cannot be afraid of democracy. So if we're afraid of democracy, then we shouldn't be running for mayor.
Alphabetical order. J comes before R, by the way. But it's about
I'm going alphabetically.
That's what you said before.
I changed my mind. You know, women can do that. So, let's go.
I too want to thank, our dynamic moderator. Let's give a round of applause to Marsha Brown. She did a great job. I want to thank the Newark Trust for Education, everyone that's here participating. I want to thank the candidates who are here and also participating and discussing what is the city's most important issue, which is the future of public education here in the city of Newark. And my first action as mayor will be to form my office on education. And that office is going to be charged with the responsibility of setting up our active Youth Advisory Council. That office is going to be charged with the responsibility of engaging our parents in the decision-making process that our Newark Board of Education goes through, and more importantly, what the city can do in order to support public education in the city of Newark. I stated at the beginning that I'm running for mayor, not superintendent of schools, but I do recognize that the mayor of the city is the leading advocate when it comes to improving the quality of public education for all students in the city of Newark. And whether that means engaging our philanthropic community, and Councilman Barack, I think by the time we take office, that Facebook money will be pretty much gone. So it's our responsibility to raise some additional dollars, and coincide those resources with some of the basic needs that our schools have. We're talking about cutting back on after-school programming. We're talking about having state-of-the-art recreational facilities in the city of Newark, but not having enough resources to staff and program those centers. Those need to be amongst the top priority of your next mayor. Removing barriers to quality education, dealing with some of the safety concerns that we have as a community in order to improve the quality of public education.
I thank the great Marcia Brown for moderating. It's always a blessing to be with my colleagues in this fight. I do quickly disagree. I actually think the $43 million in the pockets of our educators is a beautiful thing. Our teachers work very hard, and I think to put that money in the pockets of our teachers and to recognize their hard work is a great thing. The first thing I would do upon walking into City Hall would be to convene all stakeholders. The superintendent, our philanthropic community, our parents, our political officials, our business officials, our university sector, our leaders in the cultural and artistic community, and to bring everyone together and say we have to work together for our babies. That there's nothing more important to the future of the city of Newark than making sure that every child in the city of Newark has access to a world-class education, and we need everyone in on that. We need all hands on deck, and we have to work together. People you may not like, people you may disagree with, the interests of our kids have to trump any narrow parochial interests that we may have. And then I want to make sure we work together on a vision that's really about empowering parents. Empowering parents to make more decisions that affect the lives of their own young people. Empowering parents with information so that they are educated consumers so that they can make decisions not only about the schools that their kids attend, but also they can hold accountable the educators in these schools to make sure they're providing high quality services to our young people. We have to empower our community. Right? Too often in the city of Newark, we depend on political leadership, but I want to depend on the people of Newark who are empowered, who are brilliant, and can make decisions not only affect the lives of our young people, but create our entire city in a much brighter and powerful way. Thank you.
First of all, I want to thank Marcia. I want to thank the Newark Trust for Public Education. But most importantly, I want to thank all of you here today. Can you give yourselves a round of applause? Because the one thing that all of us have in common is that we care about our kids, we care about our community, and we are passionate about making sure that all of our young people are prepared with the skills in order to be able to compete. But the first thing that I would do, I would convene my colleagues here on the stage, because I want to commend them for their important ideas and their contribution to the important discussion about education. The second thing I would do is what Shafar said, but that's what I'm doing already. Working with all of our important stakeholders, our colleges and universities. I've talked to you about some of those programs that I'm working with them on. Our big businesses, our developers, our residents, and most importantly, our parents and caregivers. There's nothing that we can't do, and I've demonstrated that if we work together as a community. But this digging our heels in ideologically, I'm for charter schools, I'm for district schools, I'm for private schools. We should all be for the success of all of our children, because in a real sense, they are the future of this city. And if we send bad signals to them that we're in this camp or that camp, then what kind of example are we setting for them? So everything that we need in terms of expertise and knowledge, we have. All we have to do is do a better job of coordinating that in order to move our education system forward. And if we can move our education system forward, we can move our city forward. Thank you for coming. Continue to stay engaged in this important discussion. Thank you.
So ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I want them all, they're all standing, right? There is no democracy without choice. And look at the choices. Aren't they wonderful? Bright, talented, smart people, and you have to make a choice. So let's take the next 8 months and figure that out. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Marcia. And as we say goodnight, this house has been packed. There's a seat open in the whole place. We thank you for that. But there's one job that we need to recognize: the person behind the